Banishment for all. A true aimed thrust into the fire.
If you're a fan of video games, then chances are you've probably heard of the development studio Supergiant Games. If so, most likely you know them as the developer of Hades. You may also know them as the developer of Bastion and Transistor, but you are least likely to know them as the developer of Pyre. The third game from the studio continued their critical success, but did not reach the same level of popularity that their two previous games had, and certainly did not reach the same level that their next game would. And as someone who's now played through it 3 times, I think that's a shame. First of all, it's Supergiant, so it goes without saying that it's visually and musically stunning. Secondly, I would argue that it's also the most original of their work, both in setting and gameplay, placing you in the position of the reader and a gang of exiles who have all been cast from their homes to the barren wasteland that is the downside. Your role is to control your companions during the rites. I've seen these rites referred to as fantasy basketball, which probably is the most succinct way of describing the way they play, despite the fact that the only similarities are there is a ball, or orb technically, which can be passed and dunk slammed. Is that the right phrase? There are different arenas, all with their own gimmicks, and each one of your companions plays in a different way. These factors have a big impact on the strategy you will employ. Do you try to hog the orb with your faster characters and run rings around your opponents? Or do you take a slower, more methodical approach, temporarily banishing your opponents so that you can hurl the orb into their pyre uncontested? After a number of standard rites, your gang of exiles, the Nightwings, get to play in a liberation rite. Your reward, should you win, is that one of your members will get to go free and return from the downside back to their home, the Commonwealth. What's brilliant about this is that only the 3 members of your party with the most experience at that point can be chosen to go free, thereby forcing you to lose one of your most valuable companions each time. And if that wasn't bad enough, in between the rites you'll have plenty of time to chat with and get to know the various members, thus adding the further complication of having to decide whether you want to remove one of your favourite characters from the game. They all have their own backstories which cannot be explored further unless you continually refuse them their chance at freedom, trapping them in the hellscape that is Australia, the downside. I liked all the characters, especially Teaser, because he is very cute. It's worth playing on the normal difficulty for a first playthrough so that you can achieve that which all gamers crave, the perfect ending. Though without spoiling too much, be warned that this game does not have a perfect ending. Once you've satisfied your craving, start again on the true Nightwing difficulty for a more realistic challenge and a less fairy tale story. This involves harder AI, but crucially also forces you to pick from a list of negative modifiers that you then have to increasingly stack as the story progresses, which can really make things tough, but also adds in another layer of strategy as you try to find the least effective combination of modifiers for your opponents dependent on which team you're playing against. It can be somewhat frustrating to play on the higher difficulty due to the inconsistent level the AI plays at, sometimes switching from playing like they're not paying attention to suddenly gaining inhuman reactions within the same rite. But I really think more people should play Pyre, especially if you're a fan of other Supergiant games. Until next time.
The 8 scribes are ever merciful. By their grace, the cycle of the rites may soon commence again.